So yesterday, I guess the thing that came from camp, Texans camp there in West Virginia, was that Cam Robinson left practice early with an injury. He's out there not practicing, but he's out there, so he's walking around. But he has a compression sleeve on his left leg, so they're working around it. And they switched their O line up. They moved Ersery to left tackle, Tytus Howard to right, and threw Drew Scruggs in there with Jake Andrews at center, along with Laken Tomlinson. So your tackles are Ersery and Tytus Howard. Your guards are Tomlinson and Scruggs, and your center Jake Andrews, which somewhat conflicts with the depth chart, the unofficial depth chart. That means next to nothing. We'll see if it even means much for preseason, because at least current practices suggest that Jake Andrews is your starting center, not Jaret Patterson. But Jaret Patterson makes the list as your starting center currently on that depth chart, as unofficial as it comes. And while the offensive line will certainly be a question mark throughout training camp and into the season, there are some issues with the running backs. And with Joe Mixon out and Dameon Pierce just coming back, the bulk of the reps have gone to Nick Chubb and Jawhar Jordan and Woody Marks. And of course, you still have other guys who barely get a mention because Dare Agumbawale is pretty much a third down special team guy. And they got J.J. Taylor, British Brooks. So those guys will probably be relegated to the practice squad and getting a lot of run late in preseason games. But DeMeco Ryans was asked about his running backs, and he talked about three of them. That was Jawhar Jordan, Nick Chubb, and Woody Marks. There's going to be a distinct pause in his response when he's talking about one of these running backs, and you can take it any way you like. But it did lead me to believe things aren't going great for one of them. Here's DeMeco Ryans on a couple of his running backs.
Our backs have done a really good job, man. Woody Marks has stepped in, and he's made some really nice runs over the past couple of days. Jawhar is playing fast. It shows he's playing, and Chubb he plows behind his pads, and he's going to gain yardage. So all those guys collectively have done a really good job at the running back room.
I immediately heard the pause and then Chubb plowing behind his pads and thought to myself, that ain't good for Nick Chubb. Although he did break off apparently a 30-something yard run today in practice. So credit to Nick Chubb for finding an opening. But Nick Chubb, sure, he's a very powerful back. That was part of what made him special, how fast he was, plus the power. The Nick Chubb, the pause, he's plowing behind his pads and gaining yardage, not what I'm looking for. That ain't the Nick Chubb that I remember running away from secondaries against when he was with the Browns. That's not the guy who was with Georgia. That's what happens when debilitating leg injuries happen. We'll see if those legs get going as we get deeper and deeper into training camp, which is actually not how things go. You generally get less explosive as you get deeper and deeper into camp because the workload. But as I said, he did have a nice run today, according to the reporters out there. So maybe Nick Chubb isn't completely finished, but that didn't sound good. That sounded like a back who didn't have a lot of explosiveness left. But new scheme, new team, Nick Chubb is just finding his way, right?
Yeah, and hopefully Joe Mixon's ready in time for week 1, and so he'll have a lesser role. You only need him, theoretically for 10 plays a game, and hopefully one of these young guys, whether it's Jordan or Woody Marks or Dameon Pierce, who
just got back yesterday,
returning to practice. Hopefully one of these guys is the dependable number 2 running back, and Chubb can be more of a complementary piece. And when Mixon's healthy, Mixon's going to get most of the carries anyway. That's why the Chubb thing, I haven't been too alarm bells about it. It's just the Mixon. You need Mixon to make any of this work, or even to make me feel decent about this.
Yeah, Mixon was a guy last year who turned nothing into something quite a bit.
Yes.
The offensive line wasn't great. He was a creative runner, a guy who found ways to make plays work that felt dead in the water.
The most impressive 4 yards per rush for a season I've ever seen.
Yeah, Joe Mixon, the conversations about him coming into last season because the Bengals let him go. They didn't get much for him. Was how much did he have left? And he had plenty left. He talked about it, how he enjoyed running, even as maybe porous as we thought the offensive line was. He enjoyed running in that scheme, the scheme that's been attacked by everyone this offseason. But he enjoyed running behind that scheme because it was more big boy football. If you know what the Bengals do, for the most part, they like to spread you out. And if Joe Mixon was going to run the football, a lot of it came from the shotgun, a lot more than he would have wanted. We know the Texans played quite a bit from under center. That'll be something they do this year. That was a focus when DeMeco Ryans made the hire of Nick Caley. He was trying to judge how much he wanted to maybe hire a more spread it out OC as opposed to a guy who played from under center more, or at least called plays from under center more. And he went with Nick Caley because the Rams will do that. Although they do love to put Stafford in the gun. A lot of the Rams under center stuff, at least initially with Sean McVay, was Jared Goff. Jared Goff ate off a play action. They put him under center, let the play action dictate how they got their passing game going a lot, which you see in Detroit as well, because Jared Goff's pretty good from under center. But Nick Caley's gonna push the under center stuff, more gap scheme stuff.
Yeah, probably 2 more tight ends.
Yeah.
On the field, from what it sounds like. Paul was saying that Dalton Schultz looked good on Saturday. Dalton Schultz, like, physically, just looks better out there.
Yeah, he
than
talked
he did,
about it. We'll play the
season.
sound probably next segment. We'll try to stay on time. But Dalton Schultz talked about why that might be the case.
And Brevin Jordan is someone who has been turning heads coming off of injury too. So I don't know. There's some pieces. It's not all bad for the Texans offense.
No, they were dominated yesterday. That was how everyone talked about how things went. You know, there are some reporters who will certainly give you some positives for what the offensive line did, but the general consensus was the defense had the day or won the day, and that's to be expected. You have what could be at least a top 5 defense. Who knows how good they'll be. Some of that stuff is volatile, turnovers, sacks, whatever. But you expect to have a great defense next year against an offense still implementing a system with a new line and a new play caller. So defense winning today is not a surprise. CJ is turning the ball over quite a bit in camp, which is something that isn't bothersome, but it's, I would say, at least noteworthy to know that he, a guy who is known to take care of the football, is pretty much every day. The reports are pick 6 here, a pick 6 here today. Second play of the 11-on-11, he was picked off. He overthrew a receiver. I think he overthrew Nico Collins and it got picked off. So that is happening more frequently than I remember from last year, the first 2 seasons. That could be attributed to just a new system or simply the fact that he's playing against some demons on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, it's where the pass rush getting to you, kind of snowballs into rush decision, bad throw.
We saw that a lot last season.
And then now it's Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Like, there's just it's gives you a sneak peek of what the Texans defense will look like when it's firing on all cylinders. It's going to be a hard defense to pass against. It's especially going to be a hard defense to pass against if you don't have a good offensive line, which seems to be the issue with the Texans offense, at least so far. But I would like the day. I would like the one day of training camp where the beat reporters come back and they say, you know what, the offense really held their own today. I don't think I've really gotten that yet.
Maybe
where it's like fought them to a draw. Even that. I don't even need them to win the day. I just need them to, like, you know what? They're trading blows.
Maybe week 3, week 4 or so of training camp.
Of training camp.
Yeah, if it's week 3 of the season. Oof. No, maybe week 3 or 4 training camp. We'll hear about the offense winning the day and finding themselves. They got the talent as far as weapons are concerned. Running back, a little bit of a question because the absence of Joe Mixon, but you got the guys you invested in the draft, and of course Nico Collins. You traded for Christian Kirk. They do, at least on paper, they've got plenty of guys you think can lead to a productive offense. I don't know that they'll be explosive this year. Their offensive line may not allow them to be a team who does that, but competent, above average, I think they can reach that at least if they get, let's just say, even below average play from their offensive line. But because there are ways to mitigate that, and that's maybe what we've heard. The quick passing game, getting the ball out of CJ's hands, the run after the catch stuff. That's a way to mitigate what you might believe is going to be a below average offensive line for 2025. So if Nick Caley is who I've heard people say he is, and I say that because I've never seen him call a play, just like you haven't, for most of you at least, then I think he'll find a way to kind of limit the responsibilities for that offensive line, particularly in pass protection.